Now to a mysterious case unfolding in Oklahoma tonight. 5 family members were then discovered dead in their home, a mother and father and some of their children, but 2 of their teenage sons tonight under arrest.
In a world where social media and instant gratification dominate the lives of teenagers, it's no surprise that lying has become a common occurrence. But what happens when a teen is caught in a lie? As the situation unfolds, tensions rise, and the consequences of lying become all too real. Today, we'll witness the shocking reaction of a teenager who loses it all when his lies are exposed. At the scene of a horrific tragedy, 12-year-old Daniel James Beaver called the police begging for help, as his older brothers were killing everyone in the house. Daniel's desperate pleas for rescue were cut short less than a minute later by his own screams and the sound of the line going dead. Responding to the call, the police arrived quickly and found a grisly scene, with blood splattered around the porch and a faint cry for help coming from inside. The cry for help came from 13-year-old Crystal Beaver, but sadly everyone else in the house, except for 2-year-old Autumn, had been killed. The house had been overrun by Daniel's older brothers, who had committed the terrible crime.
His interview with one of the surviving Beaver children, a 13-year-old girl. He says she offered a lot of insight into how long the attacks were planned, saying her brothers were fascinated by mass killings for at least a year.
During a police investigation, officers encountered a disturbance at the rear entrance of a building. Upon arrival, they encountered 2 individuals, Robert and Michael Beaver, who were covered in blood and appeared to be grinning as if they were pleased with themselves. During questioning, Robert laughed and claimed that he had become a deity after killing multiple individuals. Although the public was unable to access Robert's interrogation recording, the complete transcript of Michael's interview provides some insight into the motives that led these young boys to carry out such a violent act.
I was hoping maybe you could kind of just go back at the beginning when all this started and kind of tell me what happened.
A couple months ago, we started talking about rampage and stuff like that.
Okay.
I didn't take it seriously at first, but then he started buying like body armor and stuff.
Where did he buy body armor from?
eBay and Amazon.
An array of weapons and body armor, comprising of machetes, hunting knives, and daggers, was discovered in Robert's room. It appeared that he had been gathering them for several months. However, when his sister Crystal informed their mother about it, she dismissed it as typical behavior, claiming that boys will be boys, and there was no cause for concern. Regrettably, her assumption was incorrect.
The guns, where did he start buying guns from?
He bought them online. I think the website's like Bud's Gun Shop, and he bought 2 Glock 41 and a shotgun. I forget, it's like a Moss boot, I think.
Oh.
Then he bought 250 shotgun rounds on eBay. And then I think he bought close to 1,000 rounds for the Glocks.
Wow, okay.
Where was he supposed to pick those?
The ammunition was being shipped to the house.
The possession of knives and machetes is significantly distinct from having guns and more than 1,000 rounds of ammunition. As the brothers ordered these weapons to their house, they were aware that their parents should not be present at the time of delivery. However, the question arises, why did they need such a vast amount of ammunition and weaponry? Killing 5 people wouldn't require 1,000 bullets. The answer is that the brothers had a more comprehensive plan, far beyond what was initially apparent.
Tell me more about making plans and what you guys talked about.
Making plans, we all plotted every night.
Why did he want to do it?
Because he just, he says he hates everyone. He thinks society is pointless, and so he wanted to, beat ill, amount of other famous people like Columbine. And
So did you guys have a goal? Did you have a number?
He just wanted, I think he wanted to kill 50.
Okay.
The 2 boys had a close friendship, often staying up late into the night talking and plotting. Eventually, they discovered a mutual interest in murder, and from that moment, they were committed to their dark plan. The boys had grown up in a challenging environment, with parents who were abusive and isolated them from the outside world. Being homeschooled and forbidden from socializing with other children only intensified their feelings of loneliness and despair. This upbringing fueled their negative view of society, which motivated them to take the next step in their scheme.
You picked a date, you said.
Yeah, which was yesterday night. That was the date.
How'd you pick the date?
We're evolving on with the packages and stuff we have. Because, all the ammunition, he didn't want them to see that. is we wanted to kill everyone at the house first.
Okay.
And then wait for all the packages to show up over the weekend. And then we take the Yukon and we devastate with the guns.
This was the start of the murders. The brothers had devised a plan to cut up and dismember their family's bodies and hide them in bins while they camped out waiting for guns to arrive. They had even decided to spare Autumn's life temporarily and decapitate her with an axe later. However, their plan came to an abrupt end due to an unexpected event. On the night of July 22, 2015, Crystal walked into their room and saw them preparing for something with body armor and knives. Michael called her over to his computer, while Robert approached her from behind and slit her throat.
And so she fell down and started screaming.
Yeah, Robert kept stabbing her. I kind of freaked out because, Then Mom came in. And then my mom came in and she started yelling, call the police, get Dad. And then he came over and started attacking her.
So he stabbed your mom with the same knife?
Yep, same knife.
And where did he stab her?
I think in the neck too.
At this point, Crystal attempted to flee by getting up and stumbling towards the door. However, Michael pursued her and swiftly pulled her back into the room.
Yeah,
She's still alive?
Yeah, she was still screaming. And then that's about the time Dad came down. They got a little bit of a fight, but then eventually Robert got him down,
Did he cut his throat too?
After the tragic events that occurred, the three eldest members of the family were left incapacitated. Their parents were deceased, and Crystal was left bleeding to death on the porch after having her throat slit. The three older members had chosen to leave their younger siblings behind, assuming they would be the least troublesome. The story resumes with Daniel hiding in his room and speaking to the police on the phone, which is where we left off earlier.
He was sitting there on the phone with the police. I grabbed the phone, which is my phone. He got my phone. And then I ran into the kitchen and I smashed it on the ground. So,
Which was your phone?
Yeah, it was my phone.
Now you don't have a cell phone anymore.
Daniel was brutally stabbed 21 times in the back, shoulder, and chest, following which the final two victims, 6-year-old Christopher and 5-year-old Victoria, were hidden in locked rooms. Michael, the perpetrator, managed to lure the victims out of hiding by convincing them that his brother Robert was attacking him too. Michael and Robert then completed the attack on the children, stabbing them to death. During an interview, Michael attempted to shift a significant portion of the blame onto Robert, claiming that Robert was responsible for most of the violence, and that he only participated because he wanted to remain on Robert's good side.
I didn't want to kill anyone while I couldn't do it, so I was going to let him, kill everyone.
Yeah, you stabbed somebody in the neck.
No,
I mean,
I just kind of...
how do you feel about what you've done now?
I didn't like it.
I mean, how do you feel about your mother? I mean, you watched her get stabbed, you cut her throat yourself, and you watched her bleed all over the place and scream. How does that make you feel?
Not think about it.
Regrettably, during Robert's interview, he was forthcoming and honest about what he knew. He did not hold back and told the authorities everything he knew, implicating Michael in a potentially more significant role than he had previously disclosed.
The guys that are interviewing Robert kind of gave me a quick version of what he's saying that you did,
Yeah.
and you haven't told me everything, okay? So I know you're not being completely honest, and I'm just one of hundreds of people that are gonna look at this thing. We got the state police coming in, and every single stab wound that you inflicted, we're gonna know about. Everybody's been stabbed, and you both had knives, and we know you both stabbed everybody. So you guys are kind of at the same level. Who's gonna be honest and make this right, and who's a liar? Okay, which one do you wanna be?
I'm not.
The police were able to elicit a confession from Michael by using a straightforward approach, which is often effective in such situations. Michael admitted to his involvement in the murders, revealing he had slit the throats of Crystal and his mother. On top of this, that he also stabbed Christopher to death. This confession opened the floodgates for further revelations, shedding more light on the motivations and thought processes of these disturbed teenagers.
You only stabbed your family because they were in the way towards the bigger plan?
They were in the way and, higher count.
This higher count, I'm confused. Is this a game?
It's more like trying to become famous and get...
It had been revealed that the murderers were not personally connected to their victims. The reason for the killing was solely to gain recognition and fame. This was confirmed by the discovery of rolling surveillance cameras and storage drives containing their plans at their home. According to Robert, the murderers planned to create 2 videos, one to taunt the police and another to post online. In Michael's interview footage, he can be seen writing a statement that was never made public. The detective overseeing the interview was unable to finish reading it and reacted strongly, indicating the statement was indeed disturbing. During the trial, Michael attempted to plead not guilty on grounds of insanity, but neither of the boys had much chance of success. Ultimately, they both received 5 life sentences without the possibility of parole. As for the surviving children, Crystal and Autumn, they were adopted by the same couple. However, despite this, the fact remains that the family, which was once large yet reclusive, is now remembered only as a terrible legend that haunts the peaceful town of Broken Arrow. How has this event affected the community? And what measures have been taken to support the survivors? Let us know in the comments below.